Today we're going to follow Saint John Bosco around for one day of his busy life through the eyes of one of his Salesian sons, Father Barberis. We'll follow him on a train ride, on a walk through the streets, and stop for coffee. We'll discuss how to spot a priestly vocation, what's the proper mindset for missionaries in foreign lands, and how to deal with your enemies. This episode is full of wisdom gathered during simple conversations with our dear saint. The Miracles and Prophecies of Saint John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In May of 1876, Don Bosco left with Father Barberis to Villafranca de Asti. Their purpose was to visit Father Stephen Macedonio, a former oratory pupil who was seriously ill. The encounters he had on this trip were routine, but with Don Bosco, even the routine was exciting. He left at 8 o'clock in the morning after hearing confessions until the last minute. He didn't even have time for a cup of coffee. He boarded the train, commenting to Father Barberis, "If a priest wishes to see his confessional besieged by penitents, let him take great care of the sick. The charitable assistance given to even one patient will draw an entire family to his confessional." He then settled down to edit a manuscript of a book on ancient history which Father Barberis had given him the day before. Now and then he would point out to him bad expressions, untenable assumptions, and other flaws. Finally, they reached Villafranca. There one could see how much Don Bosco was revered and loved by the local clergy, who were waiting for him with the deepest respect. The whole group paid a visit to Father Macedonio, and all enjoyed Don Bosco's interesting and lively conversation until 4 o'clock. Poor Father Macedonio, hopelessly bedridden, was wasting away with terminal tuberculosis. When Don Bosco took leave of him, the latter made a supreme effort to get up, determined to go with him to Turin and become a Salesian, as he had decided to do quite some time before. The saint immediately put him at ease. "As of this moment," he replied, "I enroll you as a Salesian, and as soon as I get back to Turin, I will formally register you among our confreres. As soon as you can get up, even though you may not be fully recovered, you may come to the oratory, where we shall receive you with open arms. I'll be waiting for you." To comfort him even more, he assured him that he and his boys would pray for him. There's no further mention of Father Macedonio in the Memoirs, so I can only presume that he passed away, consoled by the prayers of the great oratory saints. Back on the train, a severe headache prevented Don Bosco from doing any work, but rather than idle the time away, he began chatting with Father Barberis about the present and future Salesian schools and the way to draw pupils to the congregation. He said, "Presently our boys are just like sons, true members of our family. Anything concerning the Salesians they call their own. As long as we will boost our foreign missions, schools, and other religious matters, they'll take a personal, hearty interest in them." Don Bosco's best hopes for the successful future of his missions was linked to his Salesians' preference for poor youngsters. "One who starts out on this road," he declared, "will not go backward." He then mentioned other religious congregations in China and said that if they had gone a step further and taught the youth, they would have never retreated from their apostolate. Father Barberis enjoyed listening to Don Bosco and treasured his words, but the latter's headache grew no better. When they arrived in Turin, Don Bosco invited him to a cafe for a cup of coffee. Which reminds me, I haven't had my coffee yet, so I'm gonna go get some. Let's go, boy. Later, Father Barberis recorded in his chronicle, "This shows the spirit of our congregation. No dainties or luxuries, but no qualms about having or getting what's needed." While sipping coffee, Don Bosco chatted about the oratory artisans. He remarked, "I believe that now their moral conduct is so good that no other boarding school or even a seminary could boast of better boarders. When I was a seminarian and all of us were young adults, things weren't that good." After leaving the cafe, he turned to another topic, the signs of a priestly or religious vocation. He again restated things that he was fond of repeating privately and publicly. "The signs that tell us if a boy is suited for our congregation, if we should advise him to enter it or not, and if we can expect him to persevere, are his great candor in confession, his fidelity in going to the same confessor, and his promptness in confessing to him upon returning from his summer vacation. These are excellent indications that he will persevere in our congregation. Here's another practical rule. It does happen that a boy may manage to stay in God's grace while at the oratory, but he will fall into grievous sins when he goes home. Then upon his return to school, he straightens out his conscience and does well throughout the year, only to fall again during the next vacation. In such a case, I would frankly tell him that he could become a priest if he enters our congregation, but that he should not choose this state of life if he intends to be a diocesan priest. And why? If he falls so easily into grievous sins during the brief summer vacation, how will he fare when he will be entirely on his own? Nor should one object, but then he'll be stronger. I retort that the dangers then will also be greater. Experience has shown me that boys who cannot remain in God's grace during their vacation time will not remain good priests outside a religious order. On the way to the oratory, Don Bosco met St. Leonard Morialdo, and they talked for a while. What an incredible time when two saints could just randomly meet on the street. However, the encounter which best reveals and makes us admire certain characteristic traits of Don Bosco are those in which he found himself face to face with people who, ideologically, were poles apart from him. Such an encounter took place with Mr. Pravera at San Salvatore in the Monferrato wine country. But before we hear how Don Bosco handled the situation, if you're in need of spiritual help, you can enroll in our Saturday Mass intentions for the promoters of Saint John Bosco by clicking on the link in the description below or on the Mass logo at the end of the video. These episodes are free of filthy YouTube ads, but I can't keep them coming without your help. So please consider becoming a promoter of Saint John Bosco so that I can continue to spread his message around the world. One day, Don Bosco was walking through the village, conversing with the pastor and several notables. As they were commenting on the goodness of the villagers, their deep reverence for Don Bosco, and their intense desire to have a Salesian school there, one of them said to Don Bosco, "There is just one man who is against you. He's also the richest man in this village, and for years he hasn't set foot into a church. It's Mr. Pravera, who's probably a Freemason." Keep in mind, the Freemasons had tried to kill Don Bosco several times. If you don't believe me, just watch the video I've linked above. So the saint had good reason to be afraid of the man. These words had scarcely been uttered when, behold, Mr. Pravera himself was seen coming from the opposite direction. "There's the priest-hater," someone remarked. Don Bosco said nothing, but when Mr. Pravera was close enough, he saluted him. The man stopped, shook hands, and exchanged pleasantries with him. "Are you Chevalier Pravera?" Don Bosco asked. "Yes." "Among us Salesians, your name is well known and honored. It reminds us of a saintly priest by the same name who helped us so much in Turin, edifying us all by his virtues. Are you perhaps related to the Pravera family of Mirabello?" "Yes, I am. My grandfather came here from Mirabello." The conversation went on like this for several more minutes, with such warmth that the man invited Don Bosco to his house for some refreshments. Those about him hastened to say, "Oh no, he can't right now because he's expected by several people." But Don Bosco, excusing himself from his zealous friends, accompanied Mr. Pravera to his house and spent time with him, entertaining him with several amusing incidents. As he took his leave, he frankly told him that he wished to continue their friendship, and he added, "Mr. Pravera, from this moment I want to put myself under your protection. I find you so well disposed toward me that I venture to ask you a favor. I come to San Salvatore to see if I could find a building suitable for a school. I wish to place this school under your protection because I need your help." "But of course I'll help you," the man answered, charmed by Don Bosco's amiability. "I'd be delighted. I want to be equally frank with you. Take a good look at this house, and if you think it serves your purpose, I will turn it over to you immediately." Don Bosco thanked him, apologized for not being able to accept so gracious an offer then and there, and departed, leaving the man happy over their meeting. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.